Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 615 Locker Room Podcast. It feels like we've had 40 games in the last 2 weeks. I can't lie. It's been a bit of a struggle to keep up with. I've been in kind of finals week mode of my first semester of grad school, uh, moving mode, and on top of that, working as well. So my head's just been all over the place. This was kind of the first time since I've been a fan that I haven't watched a game live. Um, I had to go the next day and watch it. Um, it's been hectic, but I it's slowing down a little bit now. Um, Matt, you went to Mexico, so I'm sure it's a bit hard to kind of try to keep up while you're down there.
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing about, one good thing, and there's probably a few good things people could come up with, but I mean, it's nice that Apple TV's coverage is global. It's not like geo-locked, so I could watch at least MLS matches pretty much anywhere without any kind of restrictions. But I kind of was watching them as, it's nice as you can get. I was watching the replays of those on the beach and stuff like that, so couldn't complain too much. But just keeping up through Twitter and social media and Discord and other means, and watching where I could and keeping up as much as I could, because that's it's kind of a nice thing about our kind of vacations to Mexico is they're pretty laid back. We're pretty much just sitting around most of the day on the beach or by the pool. So if I can find the ways to watch the games and stuff, I can usually still get the chance to watch them. So I kept up pretty well on that end, but there were definitely stuff that I was probably not as locked in on the games as I would have been if I'm, there in person or sitting on my, couch at home watching the game. So it's a little bit more distracted when you've got margarita in either hand and nice sunshine and pool and stuff like that going. But it's still been a kind of interesting week for the boys in gold. Couple weeks there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that happened was or well, one of the big things that happened was our CONCACAF Champions Cup run sadly came to an end. Um, you know, we beat club history with getting how far we did, and just, it was a uphill fight. So I'm so proud of the boys. Let down that it's ended, but we'll see a little bit of calmness moving forward. How do you overall feel about the loss to Tigres?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost you never want to like be okay with the loss. It always is kind of a weird thing to feel that way. But after the win against Club America and beating Miami the round before that, it almost felt like we were playing with house money. Like whatever we did, however far we went, it was going to be a pretty big accomplishment for the team and their history. I mean, still unbelievable. We became the first MLS team ever to win at Azteca for the game against Club America. But by the time we got to that Tigres, especially that second leg, we're just the walking wounded at this point in time. I mean, we already had Sam Sturridge out. I think Eddie had gotten injured. If not, it was either the match right before that or the match right after that. But then Yazbek got hurt in like the warm ups of that game. I remember seeing the lineup and thinking, this is going to be tough. And then kind of like getting distracted. And next time I was like paying attention to the game, like Brian Acosta's running around out there. And I'm like, wait, what is happening here? Why is Brian Acosta on the field right now? And then like going back and scrolling back through Twitter and being like, yeah, his back goes down with a quad injury and warm ups. And I was like, oh boy. So I still put up a pretty good performance in that match. Ultimately just didn't have the horses there. And that's still what most people say is kind of the big difference between Liga MX and Nashville SC is that, like, the top line, or not Nashville SC, but MLS, is that the top line starters for most MLS teams are getting to be a little bit more of a high level than what they used to be. But players 12 through 18 still don't really compare to what a club like Tigres has on their 12 through 18. Like, we have three designated players. They probably have 8 or 9 players on that level of money at that level of talent going there. So,
Yeah.
and the players we've lost, which is kind of incredible. The results we've been getting outside of the Tigers match is, arguably outside of Hani, right now we're down our 4 most important players just about. So, I mean, to kind of put up a good fight down there and, without those guys is pretty impressive. Like I said, like you said as well, disappointing to lose. You always want to go as far as you can, and getting trophies and winning competitions is great, especially a big one like that that's so rare for MLS teams to win, but ultimately couldn't have asked much more from the team. They did everything they could in the situation, and just kind of ran out of steam there at the end.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's just different worlds. You're glad to have some sort of success. I mean, at the end of the day, we destroyed Miami, which was, or well, destroyed is generous, I guess, but we knocked them out, which is fun as a fan of Nashville, and then we also knocked out Club America, which was fun. So those two were super exciting wins to celebrate, even though it was followed by a moment of sadness. But yeah, you mentioned earlier. I mean, uh, I guess the long, busy season has been catching up to the boys. Uh, we have lost Sam Surridge to injury, Patrick Yazbek, Eddie, and you mentioned a fourth person, and I wasn't too sure.
Yeah, I think it was against New England, the midweek game last week. Andy Nahar went down with like
Mm,
a injury of some sort, so he missed the game this past weekend. And I think BJ said he's probably going to be out through the World Cup break, which is just one more game. So it's like, not too crazy. It's not like he's going to be out for, missing too much more for us, which is, that is kind of the one bright spot, I guess you could say, about the injury outbreak we've had is that we're coming up on a break where the league is going to go on hiatus during the World Cup. So we've got time to get those players healed up and get them back into form and get them back into the team. I really hated it for Patrick Yazbek, especially because I know he was kind of on the fringes trying to like get a call up and make it to the World Cup with Australia. And so to get an injury that kind of knocked him out of that, it's really, really tough. I mean, you hate to see anybody injured, but anytime there's a World Cup year, when you start to see guys who had a chance to go and play in that competition getting these injuries right at the end, it's always a little bit tougher for those guys, and you hate to see it just a tad bit more than those other injuries. But
yeah.
yeah, I guess a blessing in disguise for Nashville SC's the timing of them is we got through most of this little stretch of the season where we had the crazy amount of games, but hit the break right at the right time, right when we need it.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I mean, obviously, like we struggled a little bit missing all those key pieces, and some of the games that we played after the those main three that I mentioned, we struggled in. Uh, but then we went out and we 3-0'd the probably maybe the best team in the league. Um, that's not Nashville with LAFC. So I think I think it took us a second to adapt, but now we're kind of falling into a better form, knowing the circumstances that we're going to be in for a second. And it's super exciting because I mean, the LAFC game it's been one that's just been on my radar because one, it'd be super fun. Two, you got some old Nashville SC guys with Schaffelberg and Tyler Boyd.
Hmm.
Uh, I was expecting it to be a tough game, and Hani Mukhtar and Schwake really shined for us and brought it home.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, coming off a good midweek win against New England on the road and having a tough opponent like that coming into Nashville SC, into Geodis Park was always going to be a big challenge. They've been on a little bit of a skid too, but they were kind of right there with us. They were the other MLS team that made it to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and it seemed like it maybe hit them a little bit harder than us somehow because I think they had lost like three in a row or maybe had like 5 games without a win or some kind of crazy stat like that over the last few MLS games. So they were a little bit off, but I mean, still, you could see the quality they have, the talent they had. I mean, Dennis Boanga, I was shocked they just didn't try to get the ball to him like every single time because he was giving Reed Baker Whiting fits. It was like it was directly in front of us for the first half, so we were getting to see a front row seat to him kind of sadly cooking Reed Baker Whiting, who I think has had a really good debut season for Nashville SC, but him getting stuck on an island against one of the best attackers in the league was almost a little bit unfair to him, especially because he's been playing more left back this season. This, I think, was his first time kind of switching over and starting at right back with Andy Nahar out. So
Hmm.
a little bit of a mismatch there. I think both of LAFC's goals kind of came from that side, that kind of attack. But it was a weird game because it felt like LAFC could have been so much better than they were. I think they had something like 20 shots in the game, but it was only maybe like 8 or 9 on target, and just didn't seem like they were using Buanga and legend of the game Sonny all that well. Like you got two attackers that are that dangerous, and it seemed like they were struggling to find ways to keep getting them involved. Like they both felt like they were kind of on an island and not getting enough touches. But when they both did get touches, they were very dangerous. So I think I said it at the end of the game day vlog I did of that game. I think if you just put everything, if you like blind resume Nashville SC season, if you said, all right, four best players are going to be injured, they're going to make it all the way to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They're going to have, X, Y, and Z other things, and they're not only going to make it to the semifinals, but they're going to play arguably like three of the five best teams in the competition to get there. I think you would probably go, it's going to be a rough season for Nashville SC. They're going to definitely suffer and have some setbacks, but we're after this win over LAFC and some of the results that went down around the league, we're currently sitting top of the table, leading the Supporter Shield race. So
Yeah.
another result next week, the final match before the World Cup break against NYCFC. It would be insane to finish, the first half of the season with us top of the table with all those kind of challenges and bits of adversity we had to face through. I think I said that's the key to this season is just resiliency. It's like every
Mhm.
challenge you thought that could have brought Nashville SC back down has been overcome. I mean, first team to ever win an Azteca. That's historic, and just to
Mhm.
be top of the table after a deep run in Concacaf Champions Cup. I mean, that is something that never happens in MLS. The MLS teams that do well in Concacaf Champions Cup almost always their MLS performance suffers from how much they have to put into that competition. So to have got to the semifinals, fallen just short, but still be top of the table in MLS is pretty much insane right now. And it's hard to find any kind of negatives or things to be unhappy about right now. It's arguably, I think it's, I don't know if it's arguable. It's probably the best time we've had as Nashville SC fans. I
Yeah.
think the only other case you could maybe make is obviously lifting the cup last year was a pretty special moment. But, for a whole package of games and
Mhm.
parts of a season, this is probably the best it's felt ever.
Yeah. I would agree. With my time as a fan, this has been the most fun. Sometimes it's not all that fun to be at the top, though. Dare I say?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I think it's like playing a game on like the easiest difficulty.
Hmm.
You do kind of get a little bit bored sometimes with like how
Hmm.
easy it is, but I will say with this team, I mean, we've lost some games that we shouldn't have, so it's not a guaranteed win every time. So I think it's still super fun. But I don't want the boys to get too good, you know.
No, yeah, 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 and I think it's second half of the season is going to be a completely different challenge when we come back
Hmm.
from the World Cup break because there's kind of no real telling. It's always weird in MLS how kind of like the biggest part of the transfer window, at least with the current schedule, is happening dead smack in the middle of the MLS season. So there's going to be some big name players that are coming in. Obviously, we know Anton Griezmann is going to Orlando City.
Hmm.
It seems like it's all but officially confirmed now that Casemiro leaving Manchester United is coming to Inter Miami. Shock of all shocks, they're getting another world class player added to their ranks. Which I've told all my friends this is going to be the toughest one for me as a you know hater of Inter Miami because most of these big name players they brought in were already players that I don't know if I'd go as far as to say I hated them, but they
Hmm.
weren't guys I was particularly fans of. Casemiro coming over to Manchester United, who's become like a cult hero his 4 years there. That's a tough one for me to swallow to see like a guy I actually like, a guy I actually root for, going to the evil empire, so to speak, with Inter
Yeah.
Miami. So that's going to be a tough one. But those are incomings. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be outgoings. Players getting poached out of the league. So the teams, everything could look very different when we come back from the World Cup break, and it's only going to be more challenging because I mean, we really, I've kind of said it a few times, which there's some truth to it. Like we haven't had the toughest MLS schedule really. Like, LAFC by far the best team we've played so far. I think
Hmm.
some of the teams we played at the time it seemed like maybe weren't that good, but they've been pretty good and better than expected. Like Chicago and New England both are having pretty good seasons, whereas in the past they've been kind of lower tier teams. So, but there's a lot more tough matches. Like we haven't even played Miami yet in MLS play yet, so we'll have two
Yeah.
games against them coming back on the second half of the season. Haven't played Cincinnati yet. They're always a tough matchup, So we've got some tough matches down the line when we come back. And like I said, who knows what the team here, who knows what the teams around the league are going to look like when we get through the World Cup and the upcoming transfer window.
Has the World Cup rosters been selected yet?
It's going country by country. I don't know when the
Okay.
exact deadline that every team has to submit, but like USA, I believe they're planning on doing like a big like event in Times Square. I think on Memorial Day, so that'd
Mhm.
be Monday to announce the U.S. roster. But a handful of other countries have kind of started to trickle out. I know it looks like right now probably the only Nashville SC player, unless there's like a surprise somewhere that's going to be at the World Cup right now,
Mhm.
is and this is in itself is a little bit of a surprise. Is going to be Ahmad Kassam
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he
I saw that.
just switched over. Some news from the past week. He switched his because he had dual nationality between Iraq and Sweden.
Mhm.
He played for like the Sweden youth international teams, but hadn't broke through to their senior team yet. And apparently, I guess he probably got some contacts from the Iraq national team that said, "Hey, there's probably a spot for you here if you want to kind of use your Iraqi heritage and switch what your official nation affiliate is." And so he did that. And speculation is he wouldn't have done that unless he was pretty sure he was getting called up for the World Cup. So,
Yeah.
of all the players that they've got, he's had, an up and down season. I think he's been a lot better this season than he was last season, but
Mhm.
he probably was not on a lot of people's bingo card for what U.S. Men's, or not U.S. men's, what MLS player might, or what Nashville, golly, where am I? I'm all over the place right now. What Nashville SC player might
Mhm.
end up at the World Cup? I think the only other one that it's a very slim chance, but there's been some little birdies and people saying, it wouldn't be, maybe if old Pochettino was paying close attention, our goalkeeper Brian Schwake has been
Yeah.
as good as anybody in the national team pool right now when it comes to goalkeepers. I don't think he's going to unseat the Matt Turner, Matt Freezes, who are kind of the top two, but that third spot is not firmly locked in with any other goalkeepers. If Pochettino's happened to turn on and see, oh, who's this team beating Club America? Oh, who's this team getting past Miami? Who's this guy making all the saves? Could be. It seems like it's a long shot just because he's never even been called into the national team at this point in time. So it'd be kind of
Yeah.
wild to go from having like zero call-ins to getting to go to the World Cup. But on form, it's hard to argue against him versus whoever else we have options to be the third keeper there. But yeah, gonna be interesting to see what ultimately happens coming into the World Cup. Always the World Cup is the biggest thing in soccer. It's kind of weird. This one feels, even though it's in America, it feels like it just doesn't have the same buzz that some of them have had in
Yeah.
the past. But be definitely interesting to see how that goes, and then what Nashville SC and the rest of MLS looks like coming out the other side of it.
Yeah, I've seen the kind of clubs start, I guess, lobbying for him with like little cheeky social media posts about Schwake getting called up.
Hmm.
I think it'd be well deserved. I'm not super familiar with the rest of the roster, what the other goalkeepers look like, but I mean, if you want, I think you need MLS representation on that roster, and I think Schwake kind of is a great representation of what a great MLS player currently looks like. So
Yeah, I was talking about it with some friends at the game Saturday night, and it's a weird spot for the U.S. national team in terms of goalkeepers right now because that's almost always been like a very strong position for the U.S. men's national team. Going back to the days of Casey Keller and Brad Friedel, who were like at the time two of the most successful players, regardless of position, for the U.S. team to in terms of like going over to Europe and playing a lot in Europe. They both were pretty successful goalkeepers in the Premier League. Then we had Tim Howard, who was kind of the next one up. He went over, had a brief little stint at Manchester United, and then had a really long and successful stint at Everton, and then had a little bit of a window there where Brad Guzan was over at Aston Villa, and he kind of took over from Tim Howard for a few years. But we've kind of hit this window where we haven't had the guys breaking through to that next level, like Matt Turner, Matt Freeze, have both been solid to really solid at different times over the last couple of years, but haven't quite gotten that level where they're getting called up by European teams. Turner had a cup of coffee over in England, was Arsenal's backup for a season, then kind of bounced around to a couple lower level teams in England, and now he's back in MLS. So it's kind of a weird window where for 20 plus years, goalkeeper has been a position that was not really a concern at the U.S. men's national teams level because we've always had really high level players there, if not ever, and not so much everywhere else. And now we're starting to see better players in the field. We have a little bit higher level of field players, and all of a sudden, keepers kind of like, what are we doing here? Where's our goalkeepers at? Who are our goalkeepers now? So it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see what happens with the roster, just because it feels like a lot of the spots are kind of locked in, but there are still some like wiggle room stuff and some things that Pochettino will have to make some calls on. So be interesting to see what they do when they release the roster.
Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, rooting for as many of the guys as I can. Unless All Star is also voting right now. I don't know when that ends. If it ends before this episode goes up, but make sure to go vote for. Maybe vote for some of the National SC guys because they get taken away from our team. That's kind of always a selfish sort of selfish idea. I thought let the guys get their shine. But you do gotta think about that, right? Do you think that any of our guys are making the MLS All Star team?
I think we'll definitely have at least one or two at the minimum because I mean it'd be crazy to be the top team in the league and not have at least some representation there. It's kind of tough because I mean Sam Surridge would have been a knock-on,
Hmm.
dead locked in starter if not, or all star if not for the injury. I think that probably hurt his chances. So I do think they have rules about like kind of similar to NBA where you have to have like a certain amount of minutes
Games,
or something
yeah.
like that to be able to be selected. And I think he was fine, but I think missing these last like whatever it's been 4 or 5 matches probably pushed him below the
Hmm.
threshold. Hani getting that hat trick, he was kind of sleeping giant, kind of woke up again. He'll be in the mix. Andy Nahar injured now too, but depending on the length of that, he's probably still been one of the better right backs in the league.
Hmm.
Um, Schwake has a case, but Turner has been really good for New England, so there'll be a case to make there for either one of those guys. But I think either one of our center backs would be deserving as well. I mean, I think
Hmm.
Palacios and Woladaisy have been pretty incredible and probably two of the most unsung heroes. I mean, they've been talked about a lot, but I mean, I don't think they get that level of attention, like the All Star level of attention, like some of the other guys do. Like they'd get my vote for sure. Like it almost like I feel like there was like Woladaisy got the buzz because he was the new shiny toy for the first part of the season. But I feel like the last month or so, like Palacios has really been the
Yeah.
one where it's like he's putting in some really great performances and looking like a really, really just solid, no nonsense defender. Which is almost like they're kind of a perfect pair in that way. Where
Hmm.
Woladaisi's kind of like the wild card who might just decide to dribble 70 yards up the pitch out of nowhere and just decide he's a striker all of a sudden. But Woladaisi's just gonna stay home, or not Woladaisi, but Palacios will just cover him, just stay home, do the smart things, keep things simple, do the dirty work, and make sure we keep our keep our keep our keeper protected because that is one of the few things I've seen in like some of the articles I've read about like the potential all star selections is a lot of people throw Schwaki in there as like a kind of honorable mention and they're like, but he hasn't faced as many shots as like the Matt Turners and the Yate. I'm like, I mean, sorry, we're that good that our goalkeeper's not having to face as many shots as these worst teams. I mean, it's always funny to me. Like Tim Howard has like I think the World Cup. I think it's still the World Cup record for the most saves in a game,
Hmm.
for like 18 against Belgium, and I want to say it was 2014, which that's one of those records like you don't want to have. Like I had a buddy who for a while had like the Division 1 college save record, and it was like he had like 19 saves in a match, but they lost the game like 11-0 because they were just getting demolished by a
Yeah.
team, and so like he just and that was kind of the story of the Belgium USA game. They were just, I mean, it ended up only, I think we only lost that game maybe 1-0,
Mm.
but it was all just one way traffic. They were just
Yeah.
smoking us and just like peppering Howard with shots, and he was just saving everything. So it's like, it's a cool record. It's like, oh yeah, I've had the most saves ever in a game, but it's also, you have that record because we were just getting run off the pitch basically. So it's almost like, hey, do we blame what is happening tonight? Schwake, we blame Schwake that like our whole team is doing a good job of keeping him safe and he's making the saves he has to make. I mean, I don't, whatever. But I guess if you face more shots, you get more opportunities.
Makes sense.
Just gotta save the shots you face, I guess. But yeah, it'll be cool. I think we'll have at least 2, 3 players that get in the mix there. I don't. It's kind of weird because I know that it's voting's going on right now, but then we're going on the World Cup break, so I don't even know when the All Star game itself is. So it kind of feels weird timing to,
Yeah.
especially because like there's going to be transfers going on and stuff once the summer starts. So like we might have the All Star game in like July, and players get voted in. And like it's always funny, like in baseball, there's guys like their trade deadline is like right around the same time as their All Star game. So like somebody gets voted in for being like an All Star in one league, and then they get traded to a team in the other league. It's like, okay, which All Star team do we put you on now? So you could have a great player get voted in to be an All Star, and then all of a sudden he gets picked up by like a team in Belgium or something crazy like that. So
Yeah.
it's weird. This season is going to be very weird, and it's fitting. It's one last really weird MLS season before they kind of align themselves with the rest of the world and kind of get on the normal FIFA calendar. So it's just perfect. Just have a weird season where like who was it? I think it was my wife was like, oh, so like they've only got what like a month or so left when they come back. I'm like, and I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, nope, they've got games all the way till November. So yeah, there's like 5 months left in the season still, even after the World Cup. So it's like just keep it weird, MLS. You do what you do best.
Yeah, I
And a Leagues Cup break. We got the Leagues Cup break in there too.
yeah.
So another weird break still to come in this weird, bizarre season.
I'm excited to see all of it go down, but yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot to keep up with,
Hmm.
a lot to understand even for some. It'll be exciting. I just a side note, we were talking about Kasam. I I know you're not super into cards, but any listeners that are, I got a Kasam autograph card and a Eddie Tagseth autograph card, and they're both like $5 each, and that's how much they regularly go for. Like that's if you're a card person and MLS is your thing, it's pretty easy to get in the door. I mean, most like even someone like Hani Mukhtar, most of his cards are like 10 to $20 for autographs. So something to keep on everyone's radar.
Yeah, and I mean, with guys like Kassam and Tagseth, especially, that's probably like, a good investment because I think the idea of signing players like that, in a perfect ideal world, you want your best players just play for your team for like 20 years and just
Hmm.
become club legends. But I think Mike Jacobs even said one of the things that's always going to be a part of Nashville SC's kind of strategy is sign young players before they really have their break out with Nashville SC, make a profit when they move on to bigger leagues and go from there. So, you get a Ahmad Kassam card for $5. He has a really great second half of the season, maybe a great start to next season. Suddenly he goes to, I don't know, Inter Milan or something like that, and he goes from being like a
Yeah,
$5 card to that's probably like worth a lot more money if you got like his early days autograph card there.
yeah, I'm excited about it. There's a just another weird side note. Uh, I sometimes I like open like packs, and that's
Mm.
like generally known like to kind of be a waste of money.
Mm.
But I was like, let's do it. A new NBA product came out and actually pulled a Con Knipple card. I don't know if you know much about him, but he's like the second best rookie in the league right now.
Yeah,
Him
I
and
know the name.
Cooper Flag were like really, and I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be a good day, I guess. So that was super cool. I love sports cards. I want to share that with everyone. The hobby is awesome. Pretty cool cards in Nolensville. Seems like a good place in Nashville.
Mm.
I've never been, but their social media seems like they support Nashville SC a lot, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that's one I've heard of. I've got a buddy who's pretty into the card scene. Like he's even like gone and like set up a table at a couple shows to try to
Mm,
like sell some of his collection and stuff like that. And I think that's one he's mentioned to me that he always has thought is a pretty good place. It's one of those things where it just completely missed me as a hobby. Like I was never into like the cards when I was a kid or anything like that. And it's weird that it's kind of had this second life here in like the last like 4 or 5 years where it's kind of picked back up. Where I feel like
mm,
everybody of my generation like stumbled into their parents' garage and was like, "Oh my god, I got all these cards from when I was, 13, 14 years old. Oh, this was so cool." And like they're just reigniting the whole industry because it's like gone insane. Like I remember like a couple years back, it was like toys and collectibles had its like renaissance, and now
mhm.
it feels like we're in the card renaissance again. And it's one of those things where I'm just like on the sidelines being, man, I missed this whole damn thing. What the hell happened?
Yeah, for me, I never as a kid I never like got into sports cards or Pokemon cards or anything like that. But as I gotten more into sports, I really like the idea of like getting autographs and stuff. But I will say when you look like me standing in a line with a bunch of like 12, 13-year olds trying to get an autograph, it not only are you going to get overlooked probably, it is a little bit, demasculating to be like, "Hey, sir, can I please have your autograph?" to like another like 19-year-old or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I remember we went to the Warp Tour, like, I think it was, like, the summer after my senior year of high school, and we saw the starting line, and they did, like, a meet and greet, and we went and got autographs from them, and at the time, I was, like, 18, 19 years old, and at the time, the lead singer of the starting line, Kenny, was also 19 years old, and so, like, similarly, like, I stood in line, I was like, "Hey, can we get a picture, and I can get your autograph?" And I was like, "This is weird." It's like we're the same age, and, like, but I was also never, like, into autographs, like, I never really got the like, it was one another just never clicked in my brain, the appeal of, like,
Mhm,
having like, I thought it was cool, like, if you met the person and,
mhm,
like you said, got them to sign it, and then you had, like, a memento, especially if it's, like, something cool that they signed, but, like, I was never, like, into buying stuff that had been signed and
yeah,
whenever at the other time. Like, I like getting pictures with people, like, I always like when the Nashville SC has to meet the team things, like,
mhm,
I'll do pictures with the players, but, like, I never am like, "Hey, Dax McCarty, can I get your autograph?" Like, my nephew loves that, which is cool, like, he likes to bring his soccer ball and get that's more his speed than mine, but I always think it's cool to get pictures, and it's, like, more of a memento, like, a "Look, I
yeah,
actually met these people, it was pretty cool," type thing, but, like, I had another buddy who, like it was always impressive, like, his dad would buy a bunch of autograph stuff, and he had just, like, the insane amount of people he had autographs. He had, like, Walter Payton autographs, he had, like, Michael Jordan, like, that level of people, I can be like, "Yeah, you probably that's pretty cool to get those kind of autographs." Like, he had
yeah,
a autographed, like, Ty Cobb book, which, like, Ty Cobb how many autographs could there possibly be in existence of Ty Cobb at this point in time? So
mhm,
stuff like that, I'm like, I can understand that, but like other stuff, it's kind of like cards and autographs just always kind of pass me by.
yeah. I think, like, I'm no room to talk about this, but, like, I always think, like, am I gonna be, like, in my 50s asking these guys for autograph? Like, there's an age where I feel like you kind of gotta grow out of that. So I'm like, I'll just buy cards. It's less shameful.
There's probably also like for me like a non-direct like thought in my head of like I have to be careful about like what I get into because if I
Yeah.
do let myself get into something, I'm gonna go insane with it. Like I had to really pump the brakes with like uh what are they called? Like the little the pop figures.
Funko
Like
Pops.
yes, Funko Pops. Like
Yeah.
I was like I bought like 2, 3 of them every once in a while. I got some Disney ones way back in the day, and then like I went to this dude's house, like who his entire house was just wall to wall Funko Pops, and I was like, okay, I can't go down this rabbit hole. Like there's
Yeah.
enough things. Like I've got more soccer scarves than I know what to do with. I've got
Mhm.
so much like I've got 8 cases of comic books just sitting in the garage that I don't know what to do with that I from when I was reading comic books. So like I have to be very careful about the stuff that I get into because if I get
Yeah.
into it, I'm gonna go crazy with it. I'm gonna have and Jessica's gonna be like, "Why are all this crap in our house all of a sudden? What is going on?" So like I don't know if it's like a addictive personality or whatever, but I have to like
Yeah.
be cautious about when I let myself go down the rabbit hole of these type of things.
The good thing about cards is, hopefully they hold their value, and they're like one of the least like depreciating. The bad thing is you're a Titans fan, so you probably collect some
Yeah,
Titans stuff, and that will depreciate. But the good thing is you're a Titans fan, so it'd probably be pretty cheap.
yeah, that is a good point. It's probably a lot of teams where there wasn't a player where I was like, I want that guy's card. So it's easy to not get into card collecting when you don't want any of your players' cards.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I know that there was some things with Europe soccer. Premier League is over? Question, or is that?
Yeah, the final games are this weekend, but they do it where they don't have like playoffs or anything like that.
Yeah,
It's just strictly by standings is who the champion is, and the way it's broke down now. Man City tied a game yesterday, which made it impossible for them to catch Arsenal, which officially gave Arsenal their first Premier League championship in I believe 22 years, which I don't know. I was kind of hoping City would catch them, which feels disgusting to say, but I always feel like City's bought all their titles. All their titles are fake, so if they just get another one, it's not that big of a deal.
yeah,
It was kind of fun to laugh at Arsenal fans and be like, "Yeah, you still haven't won one in 23 years. You blew it again." As a United fan who's now going on, I think we're coming up on 13 or 14 years since we won it. Now we're now the of the traditional big teams, the longest running one without a title. So now targets on our back all of a sudden. So I was kind of hoping City could pull it off because I think eventually they're going to get stripped of all their titles anyway. But yeah, Arsenal got it done. They won it. So it's one of the kind of things that can kind of like when you get a good season where it really goes down to the wire. Like the Premier League setup is pretty cool.
Hmm.
Like one of the most famous Premier League seasons, United was on the wrong end of it. It was like us and City going back and forth for the title, and like literally our game, their game, because they always play all the games at the exact same time on the last day of the season to make
Hmm.
sure like if there is some kind of situation where it could be decided that day, you can't like throw a game or play for a certain result. You got to play it out because you don't know what's going on in the other game. And we had gone up, and it looked like we were going to win the title because I think we were winning our game, and City was losing their game. And then they came back and tied it, which would have still given us the title. And then, like literally in like the 95th minute, Sergio Aguero scores like a screamer to basically steal the title for Manchester United. Like they had, it was so close. They had like trophies at both stadiums, like
Yeah.
literally having them ready to go for whichever team won it. And stupid City stole it right at the end and got the title that year. But I think now, after Arsenal clinching the title, the only thing that's kind of left that's somewhat interesting for the Premier League is there's two teams left that are kind of in the mix for potentially getting relegated out of the Premier League, which one of them is Tottenham Hotspur, who's been one of
Hmm.
the higher level teams in the Premier League. So it's pretty shocking for them to have
Yeah.
fallen that far. And, just the troll in me, I'm definitely rooting for them to be the one that goes down just because, like, it'd be so funny for a team of that, like that. Like, I'm sure, like, everybody would be the same way if it was Manchester United in that spot. Everybody in
Hmm.
the world outside of Manchester United fans be like, we gotta see Manchester United go down. It'd be so funny. And that's
Yeah.
how I am with Tottenham. I'm like, it's just gonna be funny, especially because they just built like this state of the art, like it's the newest, best stadium in all of England. And so if they go down to the second division and they've got like rat hole teams come into their like 80,000 seat mansion of a stadium, it would just be a very hilarious visual. But I think they're in a pretty comfortable spot to where all they have to do is a draw or a win and they're safe. But if they lose and West Ham, who's the other team in the mix, wins, I think West Ham would jump them. So a little bit of interest in those there, but everybody has one more game, so it'll be one more chance to see your team before the off season and all that, and see who ultimately goes down. But yeah, Arsenal managed to do it. It looked like they were gonna blow it because at one point in time they had a pretty comfortable lead, and then over the last like 2 months, City kind of closed the gap a little bit, but ultimately it was not enough, and Arsenal held on. They are the Premier League champions of the 2025-2026 season, unfortunately.
My buddy Mark, who was on last episode, he was we went and ate lunch before or ate dinner before recording, and he was telling me all about the Tottenham and like kind of how crazy that is, and it's just wild. I've been watching Welcome to Wrexham, so kind
Yeah.
of learning more about like sort of what it means to get promoted, what it means to get relegated in terms of like team logistics and stuff. And I mean,
Hmm.
for a team like Tottenham to get relegated, like
Yeah.
they probably have enough of a backup to be fine for a season or two.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, if they were for some reason, not able to get promoted back, that's just like that's terrible,
Yeah. Yeah. They're financially stable enough that if they do go down, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to put together enough of a strong team to be able to get right back up. Like that has been like one thing that's kind of been a bit of a negative with the promotion and relegation in soccer. It's always been one of the cooler things about European soccer, and one that just people always call for it, and they're like, we should have this in America. We're never going to have it in America because
Mhm.
our owners have like will never get themselves into a position like John Ingram, Nashville SC's owner, is never going to agree to something that could potentially cost him billions of dollars. Like he's
Yeah.
not going to do that. Like it's ingrained over there that like they've tried to do things to get rid of it over there even, but it's part of the culture, part of the sport over there, and it is very cool. Just the whole, especially like if you're for one of those like smaller teams that's like
Hmm.
fighting their way up, like Wrexham, trying to get to that next level. It's so cool. But like yeah, there's been a lot of like teams go down, come right back up. Same teams that came up go right back down. There hasn't been too much variation in who's going up and going down, at least in England the last few years. So it's been a little less interesting. It's been about the same like 8 or 9 teams kind of switching back and forth over the last few years. There hasn't been like Sunderland kind of had a cool rise back to the
Mhm.
Premier League. Like they fell all the way down to like the third division, and they've kind of climbed their way back up to the Premier League and had a pretty solid season this season to keep themselves in. So yeah, but it is cool. Like there's another game coming up, which this is a crazy story in England. The Championship, which is very confusing. The second division in England
Yeah.
is called the Championship. So in the Championship, the top two teams automatically get promoted to the Premier League.
Mhm.
The next four teams in the standings do a playoff for the final spot, which is cool. And so coming up, I believe it's this Saturday. It always ends up being like the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, which is weird. It's not anything to do with Memorial Day. It's just that's how it always works out. The final of the championship playoffs is always that Saturday, and they always call it the richest game in soccer because you make so much money if you get into the Premier League that's the most money you're going to make off one win you'll ever get. So originally it was supposed to be Southampton and I believe Hull City were the two teams that made the final, but Southampton got caught spying on other teams' practices, Spygate, American stuff. They were trying to do a little
Mhm.
Bill Belichick, and they were spying on other teams' practices. So the league kicked them out of the tournament, and Middlesbrough, who they beat in the semifinals, got bumped back into the tournament and got to go to the final now. So a whole crazy story there. And now it's going to be either Middlesbrough or Hull gets the chance to come back to the Premier League. And I actually read a thing today that like the Southampton players are exploring like legal possibilities against the club because one of the things that players have in their contracts there is your salary for the Premier League is going to get cut if you go down to the Division One, and it'll get bumped back up if you go back up to the next division. So Southampton's players, how much did they know about what's going on?
Mhm.
Probably some. I'm sure those videotapes are being shown to at least some of them, I would think. But anyway, regardless of that, they may have all just lost millions of dollars because their chance to get back to the Premier League and get the money that comes with being in the Premier League got ripped away because of something the club was illegally doing. So there are apparently some players that are exploring legal options, what they can do, and it's crazy. I've never seen anything like that. That's the craziest one I've seen in a while. It's just like a team being just kicked out and another team who thought they were out being put back in. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like it's one of the things we'll never have it here, but promotion and relegation can be a lot of fun and interesting there.
Yeah, I'm hoping to catch more of it. It's just it's hard for me because I'm not a morning person. I work like night shifts most of the times.
Yeah.
Uh so like it's really hard for me to catch a game. But it seems like a lot of fun to watch the promotion relegation stuff. Aston Villa just won something, right?
Yeah, they won the Europa League, which is like the second tier continental championship over there. It's like, we have CONCACAF Champions Cup here in North
Mhm.
America. They have now, because the European leagues are so much higher level and so much more diverse. They've got three different tiers of basically that. They've got the Champions League, which is the top tier, Europa League, which is the second tier, and now this has only been going on for like 2, maybe 3 years. They've got what's called the Conference League, which is like
Hmm.
the third tier of European teams playing for stuff. So good win for them. It's a big thing. It's probably one of the bigger things that club's won, at least in the modern era. It's always weird with England because there's like teams you've never heard of who 100 years ago won 20 league titles and now
Yeah,
they barely exist anymore. So like Aston Villa probably, I don't want to disrespect their team or their fans by saying it's the biggest thing that's ever happened to them, but in probably I'd say at least the last 20 years, it's probably the biggest competition they've won.
cool.
But who
Yeah,
knows what they were doing in the 50s and 60s? I don't know.
true. Yeah. Um, the NBA playoffs are in full effect right now. My my two predictions were OKC as the main winners. And then my dark horse was the San Antonio Spurs. And they are currently playing each other in the same series. I'm actually going to check the score real quick. It's currently 88 to 93. San Antonio Spurs is up a game in the
Okay.
series, and they're in the third quarter. So it's been fun. Uh, I'd say most of everything is about what we predicted. Josh Bauer, his Boston Celtics are out. Me and him had a little banter about that, and I told him he had no ball knowledge, and he got a little pissy. But They got eliminated by the 76ers, which should have never happened in a million years. So that was the only kind of like weird, sort of unexpected one. Everything else has kind of went about as you'd imagine.
Mhm. Yeah, it just seems like everything like I'm reading and seeing about it is like this is potentially like the Wimby coming out party, like
Yeah,
him really emerging as kind of being like the dude that everybody thought he was when he was like being talked about. Like, I think he's one of those guys where they were talking about him when he was like 16, 17
mm,
years old, still over playing in France, about when this guy gets to the NBA, he's going to take over and change everything. And it seems like that's a lot of the narrative of what's happened so far this offseason is, or this playoffs is that it's been the Wimby show a lot and him kind of coming into his own and becoming like the new superstar. Because it does seem like, that's what the NBA probably needs now, just from like a casual fan perspective for me. Because like, the last era kind of seems like it's over. Like, the
yeah,
Durants, the Stephs, the LeBrons, they're all gone. None of them are in the playoffs and none of them really seem like they put up much of anything in this playoffs anyway. So it's not just that they're out; it's that they're kind of seems like it's probably the end unless they get kind of the who was it? I'm trying to think. It's like what the late era like Dwayne Wade when he got some players that came down to Miami and all of a sudden they got another life in the Heat and stuff like that.
the
So
Heatles.
you know, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So if they get the Currys, the LeBrons, the Durants, if they can get matched up with the right young superstar, maybe they got one
yeah,
last run in them. But it kind of feels like it's time for some new superstars, a new generation to kind of step to the forefront. I know SGA has kind of been the most, what is he, two straight MVPs, I guess,
yeah.
for
Two
him.
consecutive. Yeah,
But it's weird because he's like got the two straight MVPs, but I don't know if he feels like he's broken out in like the outside of basketball fandom the way those other guys did in their heyday. Like he hasn't quite become the crossover star who's gonna like I don't know. Like I was at work today. They had this one TV in our break room that's just for whatever reason it's always on this channel that I don't even know what channel it is, but it always just shows SNL replays like nonstop.
yeah,
And they were showing like a episode that was just like the best of SNL sports stuff, and it was like LeBron hosting SNL, and I was like, who out there is like because we haven't had like a sports star that's like gotten to that level like really across the board. Like I think like Travis Kelsey hosted SNL recently, but I'm like, who else are like the big time sports stars that are like that crossover star that are like all over the place the way some of these other guys have been. And that's kind of
yeah,
what I was thinking about SGA. I was like, yeah, he's the best player. He's been the best player in the league the last 2 years. But even some of the other guys like Giannis and Jokic and those other guys that have been kind of the big breakout guys the last few years, they don't like at Jokic. He just goes back to Serbia and plays with his horses and doesn't
yeah,
want to do anything else. And so it's interesting to me from that perspective. Is like who's going to be those next guys, the next real like not only
yeah.
stars on the court, but then everybody's like household name type players.
Yeah, we're definitely that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like all the my childhood and like the people I grew up with are now, at the point where it's like, is this the last year? Is the next year the last year? So we're definitely turning a leaf into the new era, which I think it's going to be. I think it'll be like SGA, Anthony Edwards, um, Wimby, obviously. Uh, I think those will probably be the big three that we see a lot of. Anthony Edwards just isn't PR trained. That's the only thing holding him back is that like the guy says a lot.
I do feel like every time like I hear his name, it's that he said something insane or crazy. That's like,
Yeah, he like in a documentary he like was like pressing Obama a little bit. So like Obama was giving him a little bit of shit and then he just kind of pushed back. He's like, dude, I'm the truth. And everyone's like, you are, but don't say it like that.
yeah,
Which they did like a interview with a magazine later and kind of like uh, cleared that up, I guess, a little bit. Uh, but yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to watch. I think like probably within the next like 3 to 4 years, we'll see that full swing. Um, I know Stephen Curry. He came out and he's like, "Yeah, I want to play for another three at least." we'll see. I mean, he's still yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if these guys, because they still want to play as long as they can, it seems. But if the league catches up to him, will they switch roles or will they just retire? Because we've never really seen. I don't think we've ever seen someone like LeBron, Curry, Durant, uh, play at this level for this long. We've had, like Vince Carter, he played 22 or 23 seasons and had the record for the longest career, but even then he's like on the bench really struggling for minutes.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see uh when that, you know, tank starts getting empty and
Hmm.
how they manage that, cuz from a fan perspective, I'd like to. I don't want to see them, become kind of the good player that's on the bench. I'd rather him retire and end on a great note. But
Yeah, especially Curry, because I mean, like he's one of the you just across the board in sports, you rarely see like one team athletes anymore, where they're just
hmm
with the same team their entire career, and I don't know if like it'd be crazy. Like, I guess at some point in time, if they had to make a decision, they might move on from him, but or he might decide to move on. But just it would feel so weird to see him playing for anybody other than Golden State. It didn't
yeah,
just feel like wrong. Like because even like you mentioned Vince Carter, like he had like a was probably like maybe like only really like 4 or 5 years that he was like
hmm
elite top level at Toronto, but it always still even felt weird. Like I remember the last couple of years, like he was like you said, like I randomly saw a game and he was in for like the Hawks, and I was like, what, is this Vince Carter that from the Raptors on the Hawks?
yeah.
20 years later, what's happening right now? What's going on? Because like I'm always kind of in and out, casually following basketball. So like when I saw that, I was like, this is weird, but like I can't. I don't want to see Steph Curry playing for like I don't know you'd say the Grizzlies. I don't want to see him playing for the Grizzlies. I'd just be like, I'm sure he'd sell a lot of jerseys, but I mean, it just would be
Yeah.
a weird visual, and it feels like that would be a probably not a good move for Memphis because usually when you're signing guys there, you're doing it more for the pub than actual product on the court. So yeah,
The Gri-
yeah,
the Grizzlies was voted the most. They do like the NBA player kind of survey every year, and the Grizzlies was voted as like the most the team that people would most likely be mad about if they got traded to. So shout out Memphis, of course.
yeah.
We got to
Yeah, you were
stop the
just down
Memphis
there. I know
hate.
there was like a big like story about like how all the players not only don't want to go play there, but they also hate just going there with their team because apparently the hotel they all stay at is just like the worst hotel that anybody has to stay in the entire league and stuff like that. There's all these. I said there's like a guy who did like all these
Yeah,
stadium tour videos, and then
yeah,
he did a video where he went down and stayed in the hotel to see how bad it was. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like I watched his video, and it was the hotel was very nice, and he seemed very impressed by the hotel. But I'm like, I can probably understand like these millionaire athletes, like what's a super nice hotel to us versus what's
mhm,
a super nice hotel to them is probably very different. But I think it was also like there were some comments like from the players that they didn't have like a good path to the arena. Like they were
mm,
getting mobbed by fans anytime because it was like so close to the arena that they
yeah,
kind of had to just cross the street like and get
mhm.
mobbed by people to go to the game and stuff like that. So I was like, that all makes sense. But I was like, I don't know. I always have a kind of soft spot in my heart for Memphis. I don't hate it. I mean, it gets a bad rap, I think, sometimes. But
Yeah.
I was sitting there like, really is how like I was thinking of other like towns. I was like, I mean, I don't feel like I'd want to go to Salt Lake City. I mean, that seems like a town I wouldn't want to play in. I mean,
Yeah, or
Sacramento. What's going on in Sacramento? I don't know what like
my
Portland. Portland seems maybe okay, but I mean, like
my thing
worse than
is
Memphis.
like
I don't know.
with all the Memphis talk, like the idea of like, hey, we should move the team because the city's so dangerous. There's not a lot of infrastructure. Moving the like only thing they have is not gonna like that's gonna it's gonna make it worse by a lot. Like, don't take out this huge revenue stream for the city, and I think it's a bad narrative that, there is truth to. I mean, there's statistics that prove, some of the dangers of Memphis, but uh let's, let's stop shitting on it, and let's, try to make a difference, and moving the arena will make a terrible effect there.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people in that argument make like the natural kind of line of, oh, well, if we move him, we should just move him to Nashville. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know that they do that much better in Nashville than in Memphis, just because like I know we've grown a lot as a city, but I don't know if we're a four sports city yet. Like I'd love for
Yeah.
us to get a baseball team here. That's been like something I would love, but at the same time, I'm like Titans, Predators, and Nashville SC. I'm sure there's like diehard baseball people that would go and diehard basketball people, but I don't know they would really take hold the way those teams have taken hold of the city. I don't know if we have room for a fourth team quite yet in
Mhm.
our growth. Like especially because like the Grizzlies have had some okay seasons, but they're I think that one of the big things that benefited the Titans, benefited Nashville SC is they had pretty good early period times. Like
Mhm.
Titans, the first Titan season going to the Super Bowl. Nashville SC first year, 2, 3 was pretty solid. Was if you come up here as a new team and you just kind of are there, you're just kind of okay. I don't think that's going to grab the market the way you need to if you're kind of like a. And I almost feel like there'd almost be like a weird contingent of Nashville people who would like be mad that we got a Memphis team. Like, ugh,
Probably.
they sent this team up from Memphis. Like, we need Memphis's trash or something like that. I think there'd be like
Yeah.
a weird anti-Memphis bias against the team, which the team is like, we got kicked out of Vancouver, we got kicked out of Memphis. None of this is our fault. We just need a home.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think they're better off in Memphis. I think there's it's a better market for them just in terms of like they're the main show in town. I mean, there's here they'd have to fight to get some attention, especially if like
Yeah.
if the Predators can get going again. Like that would like that could be maybe the one window of opportunity they have is the Predators haven't been very good the last couple of years, and maybe there's some window there. But I think they're better off staying in Memphis.
Yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't. Now, and I would still love an NBA team in Nashville. That'd be cool. But maybe just something that's not the Memphis Grizzlies. Um, we talked about this a few episodes ago, but it got confirmed. Super Bowl coming to Nashville. It was, officially confirmed. I'm still not gonna sell a kidney to go see it, but I'm excited. I'm excited that the city is gonna have that little tourism boom shortly.
Yeah, definitely like my first kind of instant reactions, and I probably said some similar stuff when we were talking about it on the previous episode. But it's just kind of to me, it's going to be more interesting the kind of pomp and circumstance and events and activations and whatever else is kind of going on around the game because unless the Titans are playing in the game itself I wouldn't care that much about, and I'd probably rather watch it at home where I can see the commercials and all the other stuff and
Yeah,
keep up with whatever bets I might have going or something like that than like you say pay an arm and a leg and sell a kidney to get in this stadium that I'll have been in hopefully many times by that point. So but in terms of like what else is going on, what do they build up around it, that'll be interesting to check that out and see what the how the city comes to life for that type of stuff and what kind of stuff. Because I mean, when we've had like when the draft was here, that was pretty exciting. I thought they
mhm,
did some cool stuff with that, and the infrastructure and development of the city since then's grown by leaps and bounds. So I mean, what they're going to be able to do come 2030 is probably going to be pretty spectacular. And I do like, I think the good thing from like a Titans fan point of view um, is this gives me hope that the kind of full East Bank redevelopment is going to get done because like one of the things that still kind of bugs me about Chiodas Park is one of the selling points of building it there was that it was going to revitalize the whole fairgrounds area. There was going to be all these new restaurants and bars and cool things, and it was going to the whole stadium was going to be the center of like this hub of activity and entertainment, and that hasn't really come to be over there at Geodis Park, and that's sort of also what the plan is for the new Titan Stadium is to not just be a stadium dropped in the middle of a bunch of parking spots, but there's supposed to be more stuff around it, like we've seen in places like I talk about the Braves a lot, how their stadium is like the hub of like a huge entertainment district now in Atlanta, and so that's supposed to be the plan for the Titan Stadium, and so I think they would probably have to give some guarantees to the NFL that a lot of that development will be up and running by 2030 because I know the NFL doesn't want to like come in and here's a shiny new stadium, but
Mhm.
it's a bunch of concrete slabs and construction still going on around it. So, from a Titans and just Nashville fan perspective, I think that's a good sign that the full developmental project that's going on with not just the stadium itself, but the surrounding area is kind of probably on a good track.
Yeah, yeah, I think you make great points there. I'm excited. I'm gonna be living like 20-minute walk from that area, so I can be a little, on the boots on the ground reporter
Hmm.
for everything that comes of that. I'm excited. I'm excited. Movies, TV. Have you watched anything of interest lately?
Um, I mean, I watched. Let's see, what all did I watch recently? I'm caught up on The Boys through. I guess the season finale comes out tonight.
It's already out.
So, oh, it's already out. Well, I've watched all the way up till last week's episode. I watched the Hulk Hogan documentary on Netflix, which
Mhm.
was, if you've ever watched anything with Hulk Hogan, it's Hulk Hogan just
Mhm.
telling his version of his story, which is probably pretty far off from the truth and very disappointing to hear certain parts of it still. But I did watch another wrestling documentary that was really good. Like A&E Biographies did a two-part episode on the Von Erich family, which
Mm,
I know their story, like I've heard it a million times, but every time you like see a new presentation of it, it's just like I don't know if you've ever heard of them, or but they have like one of the crazy stories, not
yeah.
only in wrestling but just like in
I've watched the
general.
Iron Claw, that movie that came out.
Yeah, you should watch this documentary. It's like A&E Biography two-part episode. It's
Mhm.
on most of their like streaming things. It's crazy because like one of the crazy things about the movie is that they had to take stuff out because it
Mm,
was too crazy and just
mhm.
too sad. Like there's like
Yeah.
I think one or two other brothers that they just cut out of the movie because they're like,
Oh, wow.
we can't have like 7 deaths in this movie.
Yeah.
We'll keep it to just two, and maybe it won't be so bad. But like the full real story of like how much actually happened to that family is crazy, and like to hear it and told and like the surviving brother Kevin, like
Mhm.
he's very
Was that?
he's very different than the way Zac Efron kind of portrayed him. Like Zac Efron, I thought he was really good. I mean, it's probably his best performance, but
Yeah, I think so.
Kevin Von Erich's a lot more in real life, a lot more spiritual, a lot more like introspective. He's not like Zac Efron was a little bit of just dumb wrestling jock portrayal in it. Like there's a
Mhm.
little bit of depth there, but like we see like in the documentary, like Kevin Von Erich like telling all these stories, telling all his memories, all this stuff. Like he feels like a very much more thoughtful, introspective, spiritual human being than like the kind of somewhat flatter version that Zac Efron did. And like I said, like the true story is somehow even more insane than the movie. And so it's
Yeah.
I remember there was like a documentary that WWE had put out about them like years ago that was like the first time I ever saw the full story. And then I saw the movie, and so it was like, oh yeah, I remember all this. And then I saw this one, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how insane it really was in real life. So yeah, if there's anybody who's interested in wrestling or interested in that story, it's like quick 2 episodes, easy. Well, I shouldn't say easy watch because it's all about like crazy,
Yeah.
horrible events, but it's crazy. It's an interesting watch. So I would recommend that over the Hogan documentary for sure. But yeah, other than that, I don't think I've kind of think anything. I think I'm just been rewatching old New Girl reruns and just other random stuff in my free time. Not
Nice.
comfort watches. Haven't been like diving into anything new. There was something. No, I think that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm I finished The Boys. Uh I'll wait until you watch the finale to really get into it. But overall the rest of the season I'm not really enjoying. Uh
Yeah,
the whole like I don't know. Um there's a big part in the finale that kind of goes over this, but like just the amount of vulgar language for the sake of there being vulgar language. especially with like Kamiko, who's like just now talking for the first time, is just like it ruins a lot of the moments. Like it feels like this season can't really be sincere, which is disappointing. And the boys is over the top. That's always been in its identity, but like you would think that the writers would want to hit on those emotional moments in the final season. Um, and then I mean I'm sure as you know, like there just really hasn't been a lot of movement up until the finale. Like there's a lot of loose ends that have to be tied up. So I don't know. I I think people are not gonna like the season in the finale. Uh but I'll let you make your own judgment. We'll talk about that next week, hopefully. Uh
Yeah, I would say just for the season so far up to the finale, which I haven't seen yet, is it's been like weirdly like disjointed. Like it felt like they were
mhm,
trying to fit some stuff in, like, and I'm sure some stuff like because obviously there's definitely some stuff where they were trying to set up this prequel that's gonna have Soldier Boy. It looks like they were trying to get the Gen V kids in to
mhm.
like set them up for maybe a future season of that, but I think that's been canceled, so they're not
It
even gonna
has,
get
yeah.
back to that. I was really frustrated with like the last episode, the second to last episode, which I guess was over the course of two episodes, just kind of played out. Spoiler alerts here. I'm just going to put a spoiler alert on this for anybody that hasn't seen it. They wiped the whole virus plot off the thing that they'd been working on for like, I feel like 2 seasons.
Mhm.
And they're like, all right, here's plan B. Now we're just going to make Kamiko a nuclear bomb. I'm like, where are we going here? Like, this is such
Yeah.
a random pivot when you don't have like time to be pivoting right at the end. It felt kind of crazy to me and everything like that. So, but I think we talked about it early in the season. I did not like the Kamiko story at all this season just because it felt like so weird to
Mhm.
just out of nowhere been like, okay, she just speaks perfect English now, and oh, it's because she watched TikTok. It's like
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a degree to which they were like, "Hey, you've been a trooper. You have played this mute character for 5 years or whatever. We're gonna let you get to talk in the final season." But it just felt like so abrupt and like out of nowhere, and didn't really put much into the explanation of why she could suddenly just speak like a normal human being after not being able to do so for so long. So yeah, it's one of those things where like I've been with it long enough that I'm just gonna see it
Yeah.
go through. And there's still there's still some fun stuff and some enjoyable
Yeah.
stuff, but it's like definitely, definitely not. And I almost wonder, like, also because, like, obviously we talked about early in the season. I think there's if you read any think pieces or articles or even interviews with the creators, obviously one of the big things is how reflective of real life the show became. And I
Mhm.
almost wonder if like they were just like trying to just not do that. Like if they just like we got to do
Yeah.
some other stuff. Like we don't want to get down the rabbit hole of that side of the thing, which obviously that's still a big part of the show, but it almost feels like that got pushed down a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they're just like, we got to have some other stuff. We got to fill some other stuff, like find some other stuff to do because we don't want to just make it all about that one kind of character and his eerie similarities to real life person.
Yeah. I have some buddies who work in like TV and film, and they think that a lot of Kamiko's voice lines was like dubbed, uh, or like recorded and put in after the fact.
Mm,
Uh, and I think that makes it also feel very weird, like on a subconscious level because it's like doesn't really fit.
hmm.
So that's something interesting to think about. I mean, the actress like she speaks English. Like
Yeah.
it's not a language thing why they're doing that. I don't know if her voice just like didn't test well or what
I
makes
think the
them do
character
that.
in the comics was like mute and stuff like that. So it was
Yeah,
kind of just trying to adapt the character and maybe I guess maybe like because that's what it felt like to me. Just like from no insider knowledge was just the actress being like, "Hey,
yeah,
can I please talk? Like, I gotta get a new job after this show ends, and nobody's seen me act really talking wise for 5 years. Can I get some like
yeah,
chances to maybe like put some stuff on my reel so like the next show knows I can actually talk type thing?" That's what it felt like to me. Just kind of like I said, but it was also like rushed. It felt like that's a thing like where like if you wanted to honor the original source material and like make her mute, fine, but you probably should have started the ball rolling on
yeah.
letting her talk and building up her talking maybe more in the previous seasons than just. And also the thing is, like, I might have completely missed something at some point in time where they were working on it in previous seasons, but when you have like 2 year gaps between the seasons coming out, I can barely
Yeah,
remember like half the stuff that happened. So like I was like, oh, like half the characters show up, and I'm like, oh, that guy's still alive. Forgot how I thought he died last season. So when you have
yeah,
these shows with the long gaps between seasons, it's hard enough to like remember stuff. But like I don't know. I feel
yeah,
like every single episode recap this season has just been like, here's 100 scenes of people exploding. I'm like,
yeah.
is this what is this recap? Why are we just watching all the explosions of bloody body parts over and over again?
Yeah, I don't think that's something that they worked on. Um, I watched the Noah Khan documentary. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
it was very good. It was a heartwarming, sad. I didn't know that much about his story, but he's like one of my favorite songwriters right now, and it was really good. It's on Netflix. If you guys like his music, definitely check that out. And then I think this weekend it's kind of up in the air. Me and Mackenzie might be going to see Obsession. She's not a horror movie person, and that's like, very horror movie-ish. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see if I can trick her into that. Curry Barker, he's a guy that comes from like Instagram skits. Always want to see a good young filmmaker and support that if I can. And it's gotten really good reviews too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Backrooms. I think that comes out relatively soon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were you ever into that at all?
So I had never really heard the concept of it until Jessica explained it to me at one point in time. And then we found a place that was very backroom esque. We've actually found like two places that are very backroom esque, which I think like this is becoming more of a Nashville thing where like a lot of restaurants and places are putting like secret hidden back bars in
Hmm.
places and like speakeasy type things, stuff like that. But there's like two places specifically where we went and we were like, this is creepy. This is weird. And so she's the one who kind of introduced me to the lore of the back rooms, and I sent her like the trailer when that trailer for that came out, and she was like, "Nope, not doing this. No, thank you."
Yeah. I thought it was super cool. This could just be a promotional thing. I don't know, but like a YouTuber who's like been huge in like that space forever, got to visit the backroom set, and he said that he actually got lost in it, which is like you know the most terrifying thing ever.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but I'm super excited for it. I kind of was a hater at first. I was like, this is like we've seen movies come out of like these kind of like small internet ideas and they've
Hmm.
not been great.
It's like, oh, here's a Reddit thread everybody seems to be interested in. Let's make a movie about it.
Exactly, and it usually doesn't turn out that awesome. So kind of was a downer on it, but uh the more I see, the more I get interested, and it's another young filmmaker that hopefully has his stuff going on. Um but yeah, so that wraps that up. New York City FC. We play them Saturday, I'm assuming. Uh,
Correct.
they are currently number 5 on the table. These have been the games that we've had to worry about the most. Uh, so I think they still have Maximiliano
Hmm.
Morales and the Matt Freezy guy that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, what are you expecting to come out of this game?
It's kind of like I said earlier. On paper, with the injuries and everything else we've been dealing with, it feels like a game that should be a you know tough matchup for us because like you said, they're fifth, but they've gotten some decent results lately, and they're always one of those teams that's kind of in and around the mix in the Eastern Conference. But we just keep showing up and getting results. So I mean, I'm have no reason to doubt this team to be able to continue to do it. They've done it pretty consistently throughout the season. Feel like might have a little extra pop from the players. Everybody goes out there knowing it's kind of the last hurrah before they get some time off. So usually when you have a game like that, it's like one of two ways. I think the NBA, what is it always the joke is like, oh, you're already at Cancun, bro, or whatever and stuff like that. So hopefully we're not the team that's already in Cancun. Hopefully we're the team
Yeah,
that's like, let's put all we got into this last one. Because I mean, to finish out the first little stretch of the MLS season and go into the World Cup break, top of the table would be just huge and awesome and like a really big momentum boost, for when play resumes. So hoping for a win, but who knows? This team's been overachieving all season long. So Hani seems like which is almost a bad thing about the break. It's like Hani's just catching fire right now. So
yeah.
you almost was like, let's keep going. Let's keep letting Hani while he's in form. So hopefully he can keep it going. This next week, and some of the other guys that have been stepping up, they can do it too. So we've been really good at home. So getting to play this game at home is probably a huge advantage too. So I'm expecting Nashville SC to kind of keep it going.
I'm hoping and expecting the same. Uh, it'll be fun, and then we'll have a little bit of a break. I don't know what the podcast will look like during the break. We'll have to figure that out. Um, but yeah, I've started a new kind of social media venture, I guess, where at Dylan Parton Sports, I'll leave my link tree in the description. Doing short form kind of sports history con- content in preparation to kind of build a following there and uh, to promote something that I'm working on that's a little bit bigger that will come out in a long time. Who knows when? But yeah, so check me out over there. Matt, if you want to go ahead and give yourself the plug.
Yeah, Uncle Mad. YouTube's kind of the main place I post pretty much all like the videos, game day vlogs. Just had like the whole Mexico vacation series came out and had some fun doing all that stuff. And I guess we'll have some other stuff to fill in. Summer always picks up. There's always some interesting things to do
Mhm.
and video and vlog about throughout the summer. So Uncle Mad with two D's, same thing on social media. It's easy enough to find me if you want to.
Matt, did you get to check out the last episode where Mark filled in for you?
I watched like the first 20 minutes and then like I had to go do something else and I never got back to it. But I was like, I kind of liked it. I was like, it was a cool vibe. You guys definitely have good, chemistry together, which makes sense. You guys, it was kind of a cool vibe to actually see like, two guys hanging out, actually talking in person as opposed to like internet show type thing, which, it's
Yeah,
fun. I enjoy doing it, but I thought it was cool. I thought you guys did a pretty good job.
yeah, we were kind of naughty boys while you were gone. We had a few drinks, went off the rails a
Yeah.
few times, but whenever Matt's not here, Matt's not a drinker. We don't want to pressure him to drink, so we'll do that with our guest.
Yeah. My first ever really attempt to do a podcast. And this was probably at this point in time 15 years ago. It was like me and a buddy that were living in a townhouse in like east of Nashville. And it was when like podcasts were first kind of like becoming kind of popular. Like, oh, everybody's doing these. We got to do one of these. And we called it the vodcast because the whole theme was like we were going to get as drunk as possible and then just record and talk
Yeah.
about whatever came up. And I don't think we ever published one because I don't even think we could figure out how to publish it. But we had about like 3 episodes worth of stuff we recorded, and it was like the most unlistenable stuff ever. Like we were dying laughing listening to it just because I mean, you're always going to find yourself funnier, especially like in stupid stuff like that. But like
Yeah,
we were like, even if we could figure out how to put, because like there wasn't like, I don't even know where we could have put it like at that point in time, but like if we could have figured out how to publish it, I'm glad we couldn't figure out how to publish it because it was unlistenable. And if it had somehow gotten to the archives and people had stumbled upon it years later, it would cost us both all our jobs and probably both get us divorced. Because I mean, just you should never drink as much vodka as humanly possible and then record yourself just rambling for an hour and a half
yeah.
because the things you'll say that you think are smart or funny just terrible, terrible decision making. So that one never saw the light of day for the betterment of society.
That's I maybe we you've told some stories about things that haven't seen the light of the day, and maybe if we get 200, 300 episodes in, we can release the Uncle Mad files of all the shenanigans that have never seen the
I
light of
I, I
day.
always I always say one of the good things about being the age I am is like social media came out and got big when I was responsible enough to mostly be
Yeah,
okay with it. Like high school, college, if I had YouTube, if I had Twitter, if I had TikTok, probably be in jail right now, or definitely be like canceled and banned from polite society because the stuff I would have been putting out back then would just have I would not have had the right filter for the times. And it's stuff where like it probably could have been okay or not as controversial then, but then like, 10 years later when somebody goes, "Is this your TikTok from 2008 where you do X, Y, and Z? Okay, well, you're gonna meet with HR and we're gonna write up your termination paperwork because you are a scumbag."
nice.
Dang you. So I missed social
Yeah.
media being around in my hood rat days, so it's good for me in that regard.
Yeah, I think sometimes even I kind of want to go off the rails a little bit, and you're a good grounding point for the podcast. Which I know I me and Jess or Chesto, whatever, Jessica, we followed each other on Instagram, and I can tell that you're a grounding point in a lot of ways.
So I don't know if how much I've ever like fully pulled back the curtain on it, but one of the reasons the whole I'm not a drinker thing started was because when I started the YouTube channel, I was still coaching high school soccer, and I was like, it was very stupid. Like it was very clearly that I was a joke, but at the same time, there was always like I had it in my head. I was like, if I just say it, and one of these stupid high school kids happens to stumble upon my YouTube video,
Yeah.
I can just be like, well, I said in the video I'm not a drinker, so you guys know I'm not a drinker. I don't drink. I'm leading by example. I'm a responsible adult who coaches you and tries to lead by example. So it was like that was my stupid like brain idea of like, I'll just
Yeah.
say. So like that definitely led to like me being a little bit better behaved in the channel than I might have otherwise been. So once again, good timing about when social media and stuff like that came into my life was like I had enough real grown up responsibilities to not just be a complete lunatic.
I even like as a new person on the channel, it took me probably too long to figure out, you know, there was a little bit of a bit going on. But yeah,
Yeah.
I brought up last episode because I wanted to once again thank you to Mark for coming on, and I'm sure he will come on again whenever there's vacations or something pops up. Matt, you're gonna have to invite a friend to get drunk whenever I can't record.
See, that's the other part about being older is like I got all these adult friends that like are like, oh no, you can put me in your videos. I don't know," like because I like once again I'm friends with a lot of like school teachers and coaches and stuff who like are like I could be on video, I could have the kids see me, all that stuff. So I did want to shout out one more thing. I forgot about
Mhm,
this earlier, but I don't know how much you've like dipped your toe into like the other like kind of Nashville SC podcast waters, but it was announced I think either yesterday or today that Club and Country USA, which was kind of like one of the early Nashville SC podcast, is going through a bit of a rebrand, a bit of a change. It was
mhm,
hosted by Wes Bowling, I think, and Tim Sullivan, both guys who kind of had covered Nashville SC in some variety or form or fashion, pretty much predating the MLS days, and they kind of teamed up to do the podcast. But um, Wes, I believe, is moving to Finland for his like real job, and
mhm,
Tim Sullivan now lives in like I want to say like Minnesota, where he's like the editor for like a small time newspaper, which is so both of them have had like full time jobs to where it had become a hobby and it's becoming harder and harder for them to do regular episodes. So
mhm,
they kind of passed the ball to Ben Wright, who's like one of the big, Nashville SC media journalists, and some other people are kind of going to take over that podcast. But the two original hosts, who were kind of two of the early boots on the ground podcasters when it comes to Nashville SC content, are kind of stepping away and moving on to like the next phase of their life. And definitely they're two guys I've listened to their stuff, for pretty much as long as I've been following Nashville SC, and definitely been inspired and influenced by some of the stuff they did on the show. So hate to see them go, but certainly thank them for all the great content they gave over the years. And hopefully they won't be fully gone. I could see them popping back in here and there. But if you need any other Nashville SC content, they were always great. So we've got some good podcasts in our community for to be
mhm.
still be a young team. There's some other good podcasts out there and some good people talking about this soccer team. So just want to shout them out because I've always enjoyed their stuff, and hate to see it end, but life goes the way life goes.
Yeah, that I listened to a few of their episodes. early on as a fan. So yeah, yeah. Thanks for your service. It's been good. Hopefully everything treats y'all well in life, and you'll be missed in the community. And hopefully you pop your heads back in every now and then.
I have one funny kind of crossover story with him I'll share because I know we're probably going a little bit long here, but
No, you're good.
I go on the Battered Herons show. I've gone on
Mhm.
with him a handful of times when we're playing Miami and kind of talk about the games and stuff like that. And there was one episode they had me and Tim Sullivan both on, and I was like, dude, he's like a real journalist. I'm just like a dude who like goes to the games and blabbers on about God know what. I was like, oh, I am way out of my league on this episode, and I was just like, oh. So yeah, Tim, good point. Yeah, you definitely because he's like big into data and like he has
Mhm.
like the stats, and I'm just like, ah, honey looked like he played pretty good. It's
Yeah.
like I'm just your bare bones like basic sports fan. I was like, oh man, I'm in the big leagues now with this guy over here. So that was an interesting experience to be co Nashville SC experts with him for one episode.
Nice, nice. Did you hold your own?
I think it was a good balance of like him being like kind of the guy who has like the real information and kind
Mhm.
of like could share some like really deep dive stuff, and I'm just over there like vibes guy, just like yeah, fucking bang it into the box more, take more shots. What are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, I think it was a good counterbalance of the type of people that follow sports.
Awesome. Yeah, go check that episode out. I'm sure it's still up, maybe.
Probably, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in this week. We will see you maybe next week. Who knows? We haven't talked about it, so we don't know. But yeah, so thank you guys. Check all the links in the description. We'll see you soon.